canvas and catapulting your business idea. And so whether you're new to entrepreneurship, have never heard of a lean canvas, never filled one out before, or simply you're having trouble completing it, this is a great workshop, a great space for you guys to learn and ask questions. Like I said before, we will have a Q&A session at the end, but also during the workshop, Eddie will open it up for discussion. So feel free to unmute yourself. You can also put questions into the chat box below, and I'll make sure to state those out loud so Eddie can answer them. So who we have today is Eddie Mraz with the Little Rock Chamber. But before I introduce him, I would like to give a quick thank you to our sponsors, Wright Lindsay Jennings, Frost, and the Little Rock Chamber for their continued support through our programs in the entrepreneurial community in Arkansas. So thank you, and let's go ahead and get started. So Eddie is the Director of Business Retention and Expansion for the Little Rock Chamber of Commerce, where he actively assists both new and mature companies grow and expand in Central Arkansas. Within his role on the economic development team, he provides strategic insight to early stage companies, budding entrepreneurs, and established companies on paths to grow. Prior to serving on the economic development team, Eddie was a newly transplanted sales executive where he created and executed sales strategy for a national hospitality management company. Prior to moving to Little Rock, Eddie started and operated a district office in Memphis, Tennessee, for a high-growth global logistics company providing leadership and strategy execution to support the company's $1 billion growth plan. Upon graduation with a degree in global marketing and supply chain logistics, Eddie started his career in Atlanta, where he was recruited to manage an international logistics team supporting Fortune 500 accounts. Eddie has experience in corporate America, but has the heart of an entrepreneur and passion to solve problems. Since moving to Little Rock, Eddie has immersed himself in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, where he has helped build a startup in a weekend called Hamburg for those who hate laundry. He took a recycling startup, Rebrew, through the Winrocks iFund Accelerator, and most recently is working on a lean canvas for a consumer product in the bicycle industry. So please welcome Eddie Mraz.
Thanks, Nora. I really appreciate that intro. It's interesting to think through, man, like since I left college, all the different things that I've been able to experience and the now space that I'm in, and getting involved with entrepreneurship, definitely coming from corporate America. So it's funny to listen to that and now to think that I'm trying to start my own thing while also helping other people. So thank you to the Venture Center for hosting this. You know, a lot of people have probably heard of maybe the Lean Startup and maybe started to hear about the Lean Canvas, but aren't really sure exactly what that means. So what does that mean for me and my idea and my startup? And also what does that mean for my existing business? How do I think like that? And so essentially that's what we're going to try to go over today. And hopefully you leave this workshop with a little bit more knowledge of how a startup kind of thinks and operates and what tools they use to get them from ideation to market. And you can do that even within an existing business. You don't just have to be an early stage startup. So appreciate everybody tuning in, and thanks again to the Venture Center for hosting this workshop. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and go into a slide deck. This is not going to be death by PowerPoint. So please make sure you're engaged through the chat box. There'll be opportunities for you to unmute and speak up. This is a workshop, meaning we're going to work together around teaching you these concepts, and so that you leave here with a great understanding of the Lean Canvas. So share my screen now, and we'll go ahead and get the slide deck going. Can everybody see that? Are we good? Nora, is that a thumbs up? Awesome. So again, thanks for coming to the Lean Canvas workshop. She already mentioned some of the housekeeping, but if you could stay muted kind of when we're going through the topics. But again, we want you to be engaged. So use the chat box, comment on Facebook, and there'll be opportunities to unmute yourself as well. We did send out the Lean Canvas ahead of time. So it should be in the chat box. If it's not, Nora, if you could drop it in there. Go ahead and open that up, because essentially that's going to be our worksheet for today. You're going to be operating off of that document. And the goal is that at the end of this, you will have that document about 60 to 70% completed or sketched out. You know, Nora already introduced me. It's interesting to think back through the last 6 or 7 years, but just a little bit more about kind of my journey. I've only been in Little Rock for 3 years. I recently got married, so I met my wife here in Little Rock, which is awesome. She is my cheerleader, my coach, my mentor. Her name's Alyssa. Some of you all might know her, but she's definitely the one who keeps me motivated on moving forward, especially in entrepreneurship. We have 2 dogs. We're a dog family. We love our doggies. It's been awesome to work remote and hang out with them even more during this time. And I'm becoming an outdoor enthusiast, which has kind of led me to my newest venture. When I moved to Little Rock, everybody was like, you need to get a bicycle. And I was like, I haven't got a bicycle since I bought a car. What are you talking about? And so being in Little Rock is just so much fun to get out and ride and hike and kayak and run trails. So I'm very much into that. And I've enjoyed that part of being really in Arkansas. Just a little bit kind of touching on the entrepreneurship journey for me. You know, I started mowing grass when I was a little kid, and my dad said, hey, you could build up a book of business and have this recurring revenue. And when I was 11, I didn't really understand what he was getting at. But I got reintroduced to entrepreneurship when I moved to Little Rock. And I went to a startup weekend. So I went 2 days to Northwest Arkansas, and we tried to build a startup in 2 days with people you don't know. And so we developed a peer-to-peer software that people could get their laundry done versus taking it to the dry cleaners or doing it themselves. That was a lot of fun. That was when I was first introduced to Lean Startup and Lean Canvas. And now to think that was a year and a half ago, probably, and how much I've kind of progressed since then. The next part of my journey was Rebrew, which was a recycling startup for coffee grounds. So I was working in a coffee shop at my church or volunteering in a coffee shop at my church, and I saw how much coffee we were throwing away, and I was gardening, and somebody said, you should put that in your garden. And so me and my wife said, well, let's start a business around this. And so we got into the Winrock iFund, which is essentially like a 12-week program to teach you how to develop a startup through the Lean Startup method. So we got really hands-on experience of a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today. We eventually didn't take the Rebrew to market, but it was such an awesome experience and gained so much knowledge, which led me, in February to start working on this consumer product for the bicycling industry, which we've kind of moved through ideation. We're working on a working prototype, but we have an MVP, which I'll get into. The Rebrew to market, but it was such an awesome experience. We're going to launch it in Big Dam Bridge Race in late September. I was getting an echo there. I don't know if that was happening with anybody else. So that's my journey. What I'd really like to open up is everybody on our call or on Facebook. Can you put in the chat box or unmute yourself? Where's everybody at in their journey? You know, do you have an idea right now that you're trying to figure out how do you bring it to market? Are you an existing business and you want to know what does a Lean Canvas even do for an existing business? So if we could open that up for some discussion.
Yeah, like Eddie said, just feel free to put it in the chat box, put it on the Facebook comments, or feel free to unmute yourself if you're brave enough to do so.
Brandon, I know you're on the call. What do you have working on the side? Okay. Well, I don't think we're getting any feedback on that. But so what I want you to know is essentially the Lean Canvas can be a. Go ahead.
Brandon Campbell just wrote existing business with another business idea.
Okay. Awesome. And so, you know, it's interesting. I do some consulting on the side, and I was working with an existing business, and they're working to launch this new service for their existing clients, right? So their client said, hey, I have this need. Can you guys solve it? And they're like, sure, we can. And so they started building out a new product. but they didn't know how to map it all out. Like, how much do we charge, or what it's going to cost, and what need do we actually solve, and who else is going to buy this? We know this one customer will buy it, but who else will buy it? And so we started walking through the Lean Canvas, because that's essentially what it's used for, is to map out all those parts of the business model. And that could be for an existing product and service that you already have in your business, or it could be a new idea. And so I'm glad we'll kind of work through that. And Brandon, good luck on the new idea. So this is just a rough agenda for today. We're at 11:42, almost 45. This is scheduled to 1 o'clock. Again, this is not death by PowerPoint. I think we should be able to get through this in about an hour, but I want you to be fully engaged. So please ask questions, be thinking about your business as we're going through this. The first part of this workshop is going to be, what is a lean startup? What is a lean canvas? How do you use it? We'll go through some examples. The second part of this workshop is you with your lean canvas out, and we're going to go step by step on helping you fill it out. So again, at the end of this workshop, in about an hour, you should have either your new business idea, your new product or service. It should be able to be mapped out on this lean canvas by the end of this workshop. If it's not, ask more questions, engage us more, and hopefully we can get you there. So that's the rough agenda as we get started. So this is kind of the fun part, at least I think so, because there's so many biases around what's a startup and what's this trendy lean startup. So I would ask everybody, I asked somebody I was consulting with a couple of days ago, what does lean mean? So when you think of lean, what does that word mean? Does anybody want to chime in on that? Mimi, Nora, anybody on the call? In your words, what does lean mean?
In my opinion, when I think lean, I think, kind of narrowing down all your options to get your options in one place at one time and seeing like the key points, I guess, to each aspect that you're trying like the title of each thing. You're trying to just get the key aspects for each title down.
I'm with Nora on that, and lean to me is getting rid of the, all of the fat and being very specific about, your needs and what you have to offer, and very, focused and specific about what you have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Josiah Johnson said streamlined.
Streamlined is a great word. And so those are all great kind of phrases and definitions of lean. I started my career in supply chain logistics. And so when we think lean, we think cutting all waste, like getting it very down, streamlined to the basic needs that we need to work with, and being highly effective with limited resources. That's kind of lean. And so that's how a startup really starts off. That's why they call it the lean startup, is you essentially need to start with the very minimal part of the business model and start trying to grow it from there. So there's a lot of times, us entrepreneurs, we'll have this idea and then we want to make it glossy and make it shiny and solve every world problem in this one thing. And that's not lean. That's not effective. You're going to dump $100,000 into a potential new product that is full of waste because you didn't really start from the right side. I was doing some notes this morning on this workshop, and there's a quote I want to share with you all. It says, "Life is too short to build something nobody wants," which was by Ash Myra, who is kind of coined the lean startup. And that's kind of the whole point. The lean startup has three main things that's involved in getting started. The first one is a lean canvas, which is where we're going to be at all day today. But that's essentially mapping out your business assumptions. So right now, if you have a business idea, you have a lot of assumptions about that idea. There's likely a problem that you assume it will solve. There's probably a target audience or customer base that you assume will buy it. There's probably a price that you assume they're willing to pay because it's super awesome. So those are all assumptions, and the lean canvas allows you to, in one page, get those on paper and out of your brain. Mm-hmm. The next thing is to take those assumptions and build a prototype around it. Build a minimal viable product. And again, keeping in mind lean, your prototype shouldn't be the bells and whistles that you eventually want to get to. Your MVP is the basic lean version of what you're trying to create in the marketplace. So you need to build that. That's step 2 of a lean startup. Step 3, I think, is one of the most fun parts, and that's what we did in the iFund, and that's what we're doing right now with BikeBox, is we take our minimal viable product and we take our lean canvas and we go start asking people, hey, do you experience this problem? Because we assume people do, and then we're validating that they actually experience the problem. And then we go, well, if you experience the problem, we have this solution. We assume it solves the problem. Does it solve the problem for you? And so there's this time period where you're just learning from potential customers. You're not selling to them. You're testing out your business assumptions in your prototype. And that's kind of the third part to a lean startup. And then it's just rinse and repeat until everything is firmed up and validated, which is where we're getting close to on BikeBox. And I hope some of you are getting close to on your business idea or new product and service. So, you know, when you start thinking of startup, it could get way big and you go, man, I got to have this super awesome technology and it's got to be the best product on the market as I get started. The lean startup is 3 things: a lean canvas with your assumptions, a minimal viable product as a prototype, and you start doing customer discovery. And as you turn those wheels, you get closer to go to market. Do we have any questions around that? Anybody got any comments to add?
Yeah, James Bell, he said, applying the power of subtraction to make your amazing idea viable and commercializable so you have the best opportunity for success.
Okay, yeah, very, very good point. It's interesting, you know, again, later in this discussion, I'll show you guys BikeBox that I'm talking about, but so many people were like, man, your product would be so cool if it had this, and it'd be so cool if it does this. And I'm like, that would be really, really cool. But if I wait to put all those bells and whistles on this product, I will never get to market. I told somebody the other day, we're on version 34 of this product. I do not want to wait to get to version 100 before we get to market. And so, yeah, very, very good point. I like it. Any other comments, Nora?
Let's see. Christian just said, entrepreneur and small business owner interested in learning more about the lean canvas. And then James Bell, prior to this comment I just read, he said, serial entrepreneur and entrepreneurial ecosystem builder, just brushing up on my skills while I grab a bite of lunch. Also returning to Arkansas soon and thinking through how I'll be supporting economic development and entrepreneurial ecosystem building. The Lean Canvas is a great tool for this sort of thinking.
Awesome, James. Well, we're excited to have you as you return to Arkansas and to Little Rock. The Venture Center is one of the, if not the place to get plugged in when you immediately get here. So we look forward to working with you on that. All right, so on screen now is the Lean Canvas. So if you've never seen it, here it is. It's one page. It's not complicated. You're not going to spend 6 hours trying to develop this thing. You will spend tons of time revamping it, but it's very simple. It's lean, right? It's to the basics. So I'm just gonna walk through it before we go through an example. Kind of left to right, you'll see that there's numbers on there. That's kind of the flow that you would like to work through as you firm up your model. So the first thing that you need to start thinking about and answering, if you have an idea, like, man, I'm an idea man, I got this new idea, like we need better water bottles, whatever. You need to start with the problem. What problem in the market exists right now that you assume exists Or maybe you validate it, right? You might have talked to 5 or 6 people and they've all said, yeah, man, I hate when this happens. I wish there was a solution. That's the first box that you want to start with. And honestly, that's the first box that here, my team and I, when we're working on Bike Box, that we've been solely focused on. Does this problem exist in the market? So start there. The second box on the canvas is your customer segments. I think all of us have been through marketing, either Zoom calls or workshops. We should likely know what customer segments are, but essentially who experiences that problem and likely is willing to pay for you to solve it. Notice how I said who experiences the problem. It's not just who's going to buy it. You want your target segments to be aligned with who experiences this problem. The next one is, what's your value proposition and why is it unique? So there's a problem in the marketplace. These people over here experience it. How can I uniquely solve that? Why would they even be interested? That's going to be your third box. Your fourth box is kind of more detailed of your solution. How do you exactly solve that problem? Your fifth box is how do you get to your customers? Is it B2B? So is there a B2B, business to business sales cycle? Is it direct to consumer? Are you doing digital marketing? How are you going to get them to buy from you? Is it direct sales? Is it indirect sales? So are you using kind of inbound digital marketing campaigns? All of those things is what you want to think about. The two bottom ones, 6 and 7, are your revenue streams and your cost structure. As you get started, these will be wrong. You're going to get these wrong, but you at least need to have an idea of where you think, like where you're thinking. And I'll get into how I know these will be wrong because I've experienced it firsthand. It's going to cost way more and they're not going to pay you as much as you think. Just know that ahead of time. But these don't need to be detailed, and you'll see in our examples, they're not detailed as you get started. The whole idea is you get closer and closer to getting those firmed up and very specific as you go through the startup phase. The next two boxes are 8 and 9. They're very, very important, but as you can tell, they're kind of at the inside of it. These are things that you get closer with your model, you start understanding more. So what are the key metrics in my business on box 8 that I probably need to be measuring to make sure we're going to be successful? What's my unique advantage? So there's offense to business and there's defense to business. Your unfair advantage is a little bit of your defense mechanism. What's going to stop people from coming and doing the exact same thing that I'm doing? Because if I launch my business and I invest money into my business and in 4 months, somebody can repeat the exact same thing I'm doing and take my customers, my defense is not that strong. So number 9 is, how can I defend my business model from outside competition so that I have a better chance in the marketplace? So that's the canvas. That's kind of an overview. Now we're going to spend, probably about 15 minutes or so and use an example. We're going to go through Google and what their lean canvas would look like. Before we go through that example, what's everybody's first thoughts on walking through that lean canvas? If we don't have any questions or comments, we'll move on to the example. Okay, cool.
Josiah just said, I'm excited, never actually done it before.
Awesome. So yeah, hopefully you download that PDF of the lean canvas and you have it up or print it out. And the goal is, if nothing else, Josiah, you'll have a lean canvas sketch by the end of this workshop. So we're going to focus on this example, the left side and the right side, that box 1 and that box 2, our problem statement and our customer segment. So what you need to be thinking about, kind of put your business hat on, and I'm going to show it to you in a Google example, but what problem exists in the marketplace that you're trying to solve? Who experiences those problems? That's what you want to kind of really figure out. So we'll look at Google. Here's a Google example. Their problem statement was search sucked. when you try to search online, it wasn't good. So it was irrelevant search results of existing search engines. It was really, really difficult to find what you were looking for online. So that was the problem in the marketplace that Google said, we are going to solve this. We assume it's taking place. We've experienced it. We've heard others experience it. Also in that box, we didn't really get into on the PDF, but you'll see how are they solving that problem in the marketplace right now. That will tell you what your alternatives are. So if I assume that the problem exists, I also need to assume that they're solving it in some way. They're not just ignoring the problem. So Google kind of listed out what alternatives that people are using. On the right-hand side, and this is okay as you get started. If you were in a marketing workshop, they would not say it's okay. But for right now, you are okay to be as broad as Google is as you get started. Their customer segment said all web users. Anybody who uses the web is who we're going after. What I want to tell you is look at the bottom section. So if you're going to be that broad on your customer segments, you better very, very much know who your early adopter is. Who's going to be the first set of people who use your product first? And so their early adopter was Stanford students. It was being developed on Stanford. So they felt they could launch the prototype on Stanford, and Stanford would start using it, and they would be the first kind of user group. So again, if you're going to be very, very broad on top, you better have a really good idea of who that first early adopter will be. The next section is that unique value proposition, right? The UVP. What value are you providing? What's the value proposition that I'm gonna receive for you solving my problem? And why is it unique, right? If my value proposition is I developed something to hold your water, well, that's not unique. Like I have 100 of these water bottles. I don't need another water bottle. So it needs to be unique. And it's okay if, as you get started, there's a lot of times where some people don't explore an idea or a new product or a new service in their existing business because they go, there's already something that kind of does that. It's good that you acknowledge that, but that shouldn't stop you from pursuing it. You could still be unique by doing something more effective, more efficient, lower cost, higher value. So again, don't get into this rut that just because it does exist doesn't mean you can't be unique. You just have to develop a way to be unique and still provide value. So here's some examples on the value proposition. And keeping it pretty simple and clear, like you don't want to write a 5-page essay in this box. Intuit, simplify the business of life. Like that was their unique value proposition. Their software simplifies how you do your taxes and how you do your budget and how you do your cash flow statements. Like that's what they were trying to do, is just keep it very simple. Stripe, payments infrastructure for the internet. Okay, right now, at that time, they didn't have an infrastructure for payments over the internet. So they were very unique in that moment, and it was very concise. So those are some examples of that. But then here's a Google example. Users can truly find what they are looking for. So again, in the problem section, they said it was really difficult to find what you were looking for. Google said, what our solution will do is you will easily be able to find what you're looking for. Very, very fast search. So you're not going to go through 10 pages of search to find out what you're looking for. I like this section, how it says a high level concept. So when we were talking, when we launched Hampered, not launched Hampered, when we were working on the laundry startup Hampered, we kept saying it was like, I can't remember if we said like an Uber or an Airbnb for laundry service, right? So you want to, if you can say it in like one sentence to somebody who doesn't understand it, how could you say that? That's that high level concept that they kind of build into this link canvas. So for Google, fast web search based on relevancy of web pages, right? Very, very simple, easy to understand, high level of what their unique value was. So we're going to kind of keep moving through this link canvas, again, using the Google as an example. So your next box, so box 4, is your solution. what is it, right? You just said the value that I'm going to get from using it, but what is it? So here's a kind of instrument, since we're talking about Lean Canvas, but the problem that exists right now is business models need to be more portable, meaning like you couldn't just send somebody a business model. You had to send them like 20-page research paper about your business. Well, that's not, yeah, it's portable because I could probably mail it or email it, but nobody's going to sit down and read it really quickly. So they created, their solution was a Lean Canvas. We're going to take the key parts of a business plan, turn it into a one-page document, and there's our Lean Canvas. So for Google, their solution was, we're going to develop a technology that would allow users to search and find relevant content. So that's kind of where they were in terms of, that's going to be our solution. Now we're going to work towards that. All right, I'm going to kind of pause here. We're about halfway through the Google example. I'd be interested, does anybody have a problem statement, a customer segment, and a value proposition they would want to share that they're kind of working through on their brain? We're going to get further into this on the second part of the workshop, but just wanted to open up, does anybody have a really good problem statement in a customer segment that they know experiences that problem? Very similar to how we've used Google as an example. We got anything in the chat, Nora?
No, I'm waiting.
Okay. All right, I don't want to use up the bike box example because we have that at the end. So I'm going to keep moving. But if anybody, is kind of thinking through that, go ahead and drop it in the chat box. Nobody's going to be judging your problem statement. But again, this workshop is not death by PowerPoint. So we want you to be engaged and have your creative brain on right now. So channels to me is this is your not 5-point marketing plan, but this is your marketing box. Like, how are you going to get your product in front of your clients? If it's a business or if it's a consumer. So your channel box is essentially your strategy at a high level of how you're going to acquire customers. So are you going to do free versus paid advertisement? Push versus pull, which pull means you're pulling them in with content such as blogs, SEO, webinars. Push means I'm sending ads out. I'm going to trade shows. Direct sales versus indirect sales. So indirect sales is inbound marketing. Direct sales is I'm calling people. I'm going to be calling bike shops. Will you please buy my product? That's direct sales, right? So be thinking through what that strategy is for your business. Google's, it's interesting to see how simple this was, but if you take yourself back to 2007, 2008, man, it's crazy to think that long ago and just all the stuff that's occurred since then. But they were right. Like, it wasn't complicated. They essentially said, we're going to get people to start using this. And because our technology actually works, users are just going to refer other people. Like, hey, can you, how many times, I mean, this is going to sound stupid, but if you want to know an answer to something, there's probably a 99% chance, hey, can you Google so-and-so for me? Man, let me Google that real quick because I'm just not really sure. Like, we just refer people to Google, and it worked. I don't know if this would be as simple and as broad for everybody. For me, there's a direct-to-consumer model. There's a business-to-business model. There is a indirect sales versus direct sales model. So mine's a little bit more complicated. But be thinking through that because, again, this is an example to set us up for us working on your Canvas in the second part. The revenue and cost. So I made a joke earlier, and again, I'll walk through it at the end of this, but keep it at a high level. Like, don't get too over analytical on it's going to cost me $2.50 for this and $12 for this and $200 here and $1,000 here. and they're going to pay me $750 here. Don't get to that level as you get started. Keep it very, very high level. But I will tell you, it's going to cost more than you expect. They're going to pay you less than you're expecting. So when we say these are business assumptions, these are assumptions, and they're okay. But your goal is to test them out before you start your business. So they're no longer assumptions, they're facts. So here's Google's cost structure. And I love how simple theirs was because I really encourage people to start at this basic level and then get into the weeds the more they know about their customer. Their cost structure was, they knew they were going to have some hosting fees, right? They're a web-based company. They're going to have some servers somewhere, and they're going to have to host. They were developing technology that didn't exist, so there's definitely going to be development costs there. So they just said, our cost structures from the get-go are going to be these two. We don't know how much those are going to be. We'll figure that out as we get closer. I'm sure they had an idea, right? They weren't like, yeah, we know we're going to have to pay for this, but I have no idea how much development's going to cost. They have a general idea, but they kept it pretty high level. For the revenue streams, same thing. They were going to take investment as their go-to-market revenue stream, which some companies do, some companies don't. But that was going to be a revenue stream. And then they knew that they were going to monetize the web traffic for advertising, which they do very, very well, right? They kept it at a high level. They didn't start saying like, man, we're going to do a $2 million seed round, and then we're going to get another $5 million in advertising revenue. Like, not yet. Don't go there yet. Keep it high level. The key metrics, you should be thinking about these, but I'd encourage you to focus on the other boxes as you're testing and get to these a little bit further along in terms of being specific, but write them down as kind of a high level observation. What key things in your business you need to know is taking place and you can measure? So if you are a B2B company or you're starting a B2B company, you probably need to know how many new accounts you're bringing on per month, right? Especially if you're in a recurring revenue model, you absolutely need to know that because that's going to give you your budget projections and your runway. If you're in a heavy sales channel, so that channel box that we talked about, if you're going to be in direct sales, meaning you are calling people, well, then you need to work through how many prospects do I need to land one new client to pay my bills for the month. You need to work through that. So again, keep it at a high level, but have a basic understanding of what are the key activities as a business we're going to have to start doing. For Google, they said number of search requests, right? So if their technology is to help you with search, but they only got 5 new searches a week, well, that's not a really good metric, right? So they were measuring how many new searches they were getting, because that would then tell them if it was working, if it wasn't working, if they need to adjust how the technology was operating, as well as how they were going to monetize their advertising revenue. If they were only getting 100 hits, but they were selling advertising based upon hits, they probably wouldn't get that much revenue, right? So they need to know those figures. So just kind of keep that in mind. Again, that one, I would say you could be almost the most broad on this lean canvas as you get started. The unfair advantage, as I mentioned, I really don't want to spend a ton of time on this one, even when we do the workshop part of this, but it's your defense. It is important. You need to be thinking about it, but there's probably a likelihood that you don't have this 100% firmed up yet, and that's okay. But you do need to be thinking through it. So what's your unfair advantage? Do you have a patent that is being filed? Are you pursuing a patent? Is there anything that you can protect your business model so that somebody can't come in next week and do the same thing and now you're out of business, right? So be thinking about what your unfair advantage is. So Google, again, they're technology based, so they have a very specific technology that they built that isn't easily duplicated, right? So that was their defensive mechanism, is our technology is proprietary, So nobody's going to just come in and steal it and redo it. But they had to have that protection in place. So that's essentially Google's Lean Canvas as they got started. As you can see, they kept it very, very open and broad, and then they fine-tuned it as they got started. And that's the goal, right? You know, if I go back to that third slide that I put up, a lean startup is a lean canvas with your assumptions on it, a prototype or minimal viable product that you can test out and put it in front of people, and then customer discovery, which is essentially you testing all of these boxes. You take your product and you go, hey, does this solve the problem that I believe you experience? Okay, yes, it does. Do you fit in my customer segment group that I thought you would? So are you a customer segment on my right-hand side? Would you pay $600 for this? Oh, you won't? Oh man, I guess I need to adjust my revenue streams. Like, that's how you work it. And then you just revisit the lean canvas and adjust the model. And there's going to be times where you go, man, this model isn't as pretty as I thought it was. And then you got to go back to work and start readjusting things. I'm in that exact spot today with my startup. So don't be afraid that things kind of have to get readjusted. That's why it's a one-page document. It's supposed to be very, very simple to adjust. Here's just a quick look. I'm not going to walk through it, but as we looked at Google, this would be Facebook's. So look at it. Facebook would put their business model on one page, and this is kind of where it is. This is where I think when I mentioned 2007, 2008, this is where 2007, 2008 really came in. Is they were like, hey, we'll just start on Harvard campus, and as college students start using it, which is, I got like a memory on Facebook, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, like when I first started on Facebook, and it was like, I think 2008, because I was just getting into college, and that's how it was. Like, it was a college networking thing, and that was their way to market, right? And so their business model kind of played out from there, and you can kind of see it. So we're going to break, take a pause. I'm going to drink some water because I've talked a ton. And this is where, as we break, get your lean canvas out. The next part is you with a pen and me walking you through it, and we're going to start filling out your lean canvas. Do we have any questions, comments?
Yeah, Eddie, from Josiah, he asked, so at this time, are you identifying cost and revenue segments and not any number of forecasting?
I would say I'm a numbers nerd. So as soon as I could find realistic numbers, I started forecasting. But I'll tell you right now, I've adjusted those forecasts like 10 times because they're not realistic. Like, they're still not realistic. Like, they're educated guesses at this point. But I've been working on the lean canvas since January, right? And so now I'm here coming into August. I'm 1 month, approximately 2 months out from product official launch, and I'm still educated guesses on the forecast. So if you're me back in January, February, so you got this idea, you kind of have it mapped out, you might have a design in CAD or you have some code kind of set up, I would not jump into forecasting right now. I'm more focused on problem 1, on box 1, and box 2, and box 3. Like, that's at the most part that I'm getting involved with, unless, I say unless, but really that goes against the lean startup. Unless you're going to have to quickly invest large amounts of money early on, I don't touch that in depth. But also, if you're following the lean startup, you should not be investing large amounts of money so early on. That's the whole point of the lean, is how can I use the least amount of money to get me iterated to where I know for a fact people want to buy this because I've been testing it out in front of them for a certain amount of period. Like, they've already want to try to buy it. Then I invest my dollar. Then I start pouring gasoline on the model. But before then, I was talking with somebody the other day, and they have they're in a fortunate position where they have a decent amount of cash, and they want to develop some software for their existing clients. It got quoted about $30,000. And she's like, "What do you think I should do, Eddie?" And I was like, I'm going to the Lean Canvas. Like, I'm going to test this out with $5,000, $10,000 max, and see if anybody wants to buy it. And it's the also thing is there enough people who want to buy it, right? So that would be my thoughts on it. Good question, like really good question.
So Eddie, on Facebook, Mildred Franco, hi Mildred, was just sent a comment that says, Google killed wonder. You don't have to wonder about anything anymore.
Absolutely right. It's so funny. And I think, as you can tell, Alexa's trying to get there, but, Google has 99% of our brain in terms of, I don't know. I wonder where I'll go to find that out.
I think we should go to Google.
Yeah, probably a good choice. Any other comments or questions before we kind of move on from this break?
Not at this time, nope.
Okay. So again, everybody, if you're tuning in from Facebook, hopefully you've seen this Lean Canvas and can get the PDF. I don't know if we can drop it in there, but if you're definitely on this workshop, you should be able to have that in front of you via on your screen or next to you printed out. And the whole point of this next part is to walk you through how to do it. Like, we want to teach you exactly how to do it. And so I'm not going to go super slow, but I'm also not going to go super fast. This should be a little bit of back and forth in terms of you thinking through it, writing some stuff down, and giving us some feedback and asking questions. So we're going to start building your Lean Canvas. Hopefully, if this is your first Lean Canvas, awesome, because you're going to start thinking about how you introduce new products and services in a very different way. If this is your 10th Lean Canvas, awesome, because you're pushing out a lot of ideas, and that's exciting. So I want you to start in the left-hand side of the page on box 1 of your Lean Canvas, and that's your problem statement. What problem exists in the marketplace that you are setting out to solve? Don't get into solutions yet. Don't get into who's going to buy it yet. What is the problem? I have some examples on the screen. So YouTube, if you'd ask YouTube what their problem they were trying to solve, at the time, there was no hosting video as a service. Hosting video as a service. You could probably host some videos, you could post videos, but there was no hosting. And so they moved into that space. Amazon, it's interesting for Amazon, especially as you've seen them evolve and go bananas lately, but they were just trying to be an online bookstore. Like, that was the problem that they were trying to solve. They wanted more books online, and there wasn't a solution there. And so as you can see, there's different problem statements. I'll kind of share a little bit on BikeBox, and I'll show it to you toward the end, but our problem statement was, it's interesting because that's evolved a little bit as we learned from our customers. Our first problem statement was cyclists didn't have a lot of space to store their bike and their gear. So we originally were seeking to help them solve space. So our first design was very compact. It was all about how do you store your bike better. But now, as we learn from our customers and we've evaluated alternatives, it's not necessarily the space, it's the organization. Like, I can't keep all my gear organized. It's not in one place. It's scattered across my garage in my house. So our second problem statement is it's challenging to organize cycling gear. Those are our two problem statements that we're trying to solve in the marketplace. Has anybody crafted any problem statements that they want to share? There's got to be some idea people on here like, man, I really hate X.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure Brandon has something.
I want to hear Tiffany. Tiffany, if you're still on the call, I know you talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners in the marketplace. Like, you've probably heard a few different things that are problems that you wish you could solve.
have one, Eddie.
Yeah.
So, this is before COVID-19, but it has gotten worse in COVID-19. So everybody's ordering from Amazon or online service and all that stuff. And your recycling only comes every other week, right? So what do I do with all the cardboard that comes my way? Because I basically have, a box pretty much 2 or 3 a day.
Right. You're shopping a lot then, huh, Mimi?
I'm COVID shopping.
So using what she said, you would put that in your lean canvas as a problem statement and say, due to increased shipping, consumer, residential shipping, delivery, whatever, there's an increased waste of boxes, cardboard boxes. So that's your problem statement. There's an increased shipping box waste. An alternative is likely, so again, that box has an alternative. An alternative is to, can I increase my recycling frequency? Maybe, maybe not. It's probably expensive. Can I repurpose my recycling boxes? So those are things that you would think through. Good problem statement. I don't know if it's a good problem to have. Maybe, because you're probably getting some really cool stuff. So the next box that I want everybody to focus on filling out is the customer segment. So again, this is box number 2 because it's extremely important. I've heard Wayne Miller say this, and he's not on the call right now, but how can you determine if you have a business? If you have customers. If you don't have customers, you don't have a business. And so this is you walking through who are the people that experience this problem. And if you could be a little bit more specific in terms of who are the people that experience this problem that are more than likely to pay to have it solved, because that's going to be important. There's a lot of people who experience a problem, but they're not willing to pay to have it solved. For YouTube, their customer segments was mass market users, amateur video bloggers, and advertisers. You could take a look at the early adopters. I love mapping out early adopters because this tells me, honestly, who I need to go speak to first to test out my business idea, because they're the ones who are just itching to have this problem solved. If you could solve it today, they would pay you today. Those are who I want to talk to first because they're going to give me the best feedback because they're waiting for this to happen. You can see kind of Amazon's customer segment and the early adopters, and then Airbnb as well. Does everybody feel comfortable with the customer segment? There's sometimes where it's like, you could be like Google and it's like all web users. And again, you can, but we would encourage you to narrow that down a little bit, even in the beginning. I'm going to take the no questions or comments. That means everybody has box 1 and box 2 completed. Okay, cool. This is where, I'm sure we said this a million times, man, I wish we weren't in COVID because I could do X. This is where I wish we were at the Venture Center with a whiteboard and everybody sitting around with their lean canvas and just working through it. But we're virtual and we're getting it done. So this is, again, the third box and up there in the top priority as you're building this business model for either a new product idea for the market or a new product or service for your existing business. What's unique and why does it bring value? Keeping in mind, it needs to bring value to the problem you said exists, and it needs to bring value to the people you said experience the problem. So think through that and how is it unique? Does it already exist, but are you better? Do you offer it cheaper? Can you do it quicker? Think through that a little bit. For YouTube, their unique value proposition, kind of at somewhat of a high level concept too, is the People's TV service. You can watch and share video content on one platform. And they were gonna be unique because people could rate the videos versus just consuming them. Their high level concept was the next Flickr video. Amazon You can kind of see their unique value proposition. I think I mentioned this before. I love how Amazon's high level concept of things operate. Because if you know their current like mission, it's just funny. But their high level concept was Earth's biggest bookstore. I think their tagline now is like, I don't know, they want a piece of every transaction on Earth, like, period. Like if you buy pizza, eventually Amazon wants to have a piece of that, literally. So it's interesting to see how their original tagline plays into just how their company evolves now. This one, you know, take your time on. It's not going to be as simple as the problem in the customer segment. This one gets into a little bit of the design of what you're trying to build. But sketch it out. Put 3 or 4 words down and kind of at least get it out of your brain, which is sometimes the biggest part about the Lean Canvas as you get started, is just getting all this information about your idea or your new strategic move as a business on one piece of paper all together. The solution, the fun part, right? Because if you're an entrepreneur, you like building stuff and solving problems. So you've identified the problem, you got an idea who's going to buy it, you got a sense of why it's unique and the value that people are going to get from it. Now it's, what is it? Like, what does it actually do? So YouTube was going to be a website, of course, that was devoted to videos. Amazon, they were like, we're going to build the online bookstore that we said was a problem, that we said didn't exist. And so this one, not a 5-paragraph essay on every bits and pieces of your product or your service, but 2 to 3 bullet points kind of outlining that solution. And if it doesn't, like if you don't have a prototype or it's not a working model yet, and this is still in the design phase, this is great. Like this gets it on paper and out of your head on kind of what you're thinking. Does anybody have any like really cool solutions that we need to be on the lookout for? Anybody write down a few bullet points that would get us all excited?
There's got to be something with COVID in play. There has to be something out there.
Yeah. You know, I meant to say that on the problem box, like how many problems have come out of COVID? Like if you're an entrepreneur, you're having a field day right now with what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have one that's related to bicycling, and I will share that with you here shortly. Okay, so here's my marketing hat. As I said before, this is your channels. How are you going to get in front of your customers, and how are they going to buy from you? Is it going to be on a website? Does it need to be in a retail store? Are you going to sell it to them directly? Do they subscribe to it? Is it going to be in the app store? All of these things, you need to figure out your high-level strategy of how you're going to go to market and acquire customers. So if you could put your marketing strategy in a one box in 4 or 5 bullets, this is where it would be. Which is it's really good to not get into the weeds. You know, we could jump into SEO versus Facebook ads versus affiliated marketing. Not yet. Almost like the question about the financial projections. Not yet. You don't need to get down there yet. You'll get there for sure. And you'll get there once you learn more about the customers. So for us, you know, we were thinking, okay, we know we're going to be online because it's 2020, everybody sells online. But we also not sure if we can be on Amazon yet. And so are our customers only buying this on Amazon? Or they're very loyal to their bike shop. So we can just sell inside of a bike shop as we get started. Is that where they're making their buying decisions? Well, what we found out from doing customer discovery for the past several months is, as everybody would probably assume, people are Googling or searching for this online to gather information, and then they decide where they want to buy, either at their local bike shop on Amazon through your direct e-commerce store. So we didn't know that from the beginning, but we learned that, and now we have a better marketing strategy as we got further along in the canvas. So these are kind of those two bottom boxes, your cost and revenue. So I would encourage everybody, put down 2 to 3 bullet points on each of what you think your cost is going to be and what you think your revenue is going to be. And again, these aren't numbers. These are more kind of categories. What are your cost categories, right? What are your revenue categories? What are your revenue streams? Be thinking through that. Anybody having any challenges with their lean canvas at the moment where they're just kind of getting a block and they need to walk through or think through anything? Josiah, are you really eager to write down some numbers on this section?
He said, "Oh heck no."
Good answer. Good answer. It's tempting. I'm telling you, it's tempting. I had a full-blown spreadsheet of financial projections through the rest of the year, and I was like, Eddie, why did you even do that? Like that's so arbitrary of numbers. Now we're way more educated on what we're going to do. But 3 months ago, I thought my cost was going to be X, and I thought people would pay me Y, and that's not reality. And I thought we'd sell 1 million units. I would remember looking at a business plan and somebody was launching a new product and like, yeah, first year, 1 million units. And I was just like, how are you going to sell 1 million units in the first year? Like you have to really be realistic and think through that. But as you get started, you don't even need to mention any of those. Okay, so the last 2 boxes, I'm not going to really spend time for you guys to dig into. That's your key metrics. Again, I want you thinking about what key activities do I need to be working through and measuring in my business. And then your unfair advantage. I feel like I have gone about this one lightly, saying, hey, you need to be thinking about it, but it's not priority 1, 2, and 3. It is important. You do not want to invest all this time and money into a business and not have any defense around your model for market entry or competitive advantage for the other side. So you do need to be thinking about this. You do need to be putting things in place. But it's kind of as you get more sophisticated in your business. There's so many people who are like, man, I don't want to do customer discovery because I hear this all the time. I don't want to show them my water bottle because if I show them my water bottle, then they'll start making water bottles and then they'll steal my idea and I'll never get to go to market. I need to get a patent like right now. Like, don't be afraid of that. If you get started and you're sharing your business idea with some early adopters and you're so concerned that they're going to turn around and take your business from you and do it themselves, it's way harder, right? It's not that easy just to hear a business idea and go, boom, okay, yep, now we're in business. But you don't want to be negligent and not have any barriers for your competition. So think through this. This is where I want to give a great plug for the Venture Center. If you are trying to figure out patents, you're trying to figure out copyright, you have some code that you want to protect, you want to explore these defensive mechanisms, the Venture Center has great relationships with some legal partners. I would highly encourage you, if you're to that step, to reach out to the Venture Center and talk to them and kind of work through that. Any questions on here? I wish I could see a raise of hands, like who's scared to share their business idea with somebody because they're going to steal it? Because I've heard it a million times and I've been there too, right?
Josiah said, I don't have any ideas that I'm looking to pursue, just wanting to learn different methods, do enough theoretical number crunching for school. And then Hunter Slay said, just went through that, officially patent pending.
Awesome. That is so awesome, man. Like you should throw a mini party for that because it's not an easy feat and it's expensive. But you know this because you've just been through it, but something Wayne kind of spoke to me about, and I think mentioned on our last workshop. The expensive part about a patent is not getting it. It allows you to have the barrier, which usually keeps out kind of the lower entry folks. The expensive part about the patent is ongoing protecting it. So just keep that in mind. But that is so awesome. I'm excited for you for that. Okay, so I've alluded to this startup that I'm working on that's literally has been a part of my life, which is why I enjoy talking about the Lean Canvas, because I'm literally working through it. I started off with a sketch of a business idea in January, February. I got an MVP via a CAD model that I could show people in March and April. We thought we'd get a prototype in March and April, and then COVID hit and nobody would build anything. And we use cabinet makers. So all the cabinet makers are busy remodeling homes because people are at home and saying, I want a new kitchen. So it's just been a dynamic, but I've been living this literally every day, kind of outside my full-time position, trying to build this up. So here's what our Lean Canvas is, but I really want to show you what your next step is. So at this point in the workshop, you should have some bullets and some kind of sketches in your Lean Canvas around kind of what you're thinking. If you're an existing business and you're thinking about launching a new product, you should have that somewhat sketched out. If you're an idea guy and you haven't gotten in business yet, but you just had this in your brain, it should now be somewhat legible on a piece of paper. So for us, the problem, as I mentioned earlier, cyclists lack storage space for the bicycle equipment, but most important, there was a challenge with keeping up with all their stuff. They just have all this stuff and it was scattered around. So we were trying to solve that. Our customer segments, as you can kind of see on the right, we have several different types of cyclists that we're going after. Some of them are a higher priority than others. And then we've identified our early adopter, who's going to buy this in August when we're trying to get pre-sales. Our unique value proposition was we're going to be like an IKEA product to store your bicycle. But right now, if you have a bicycle storage unit at your house, if you use a rack or you use hooks, there's no organization to it. So our unique value proposition is one central location for your bike and your gear, all in one place. Our solution is compact storage box to hang your bicycle using a hook installed inside the box. There's also some storage components built in. Our channels, so you'll kind of see our direct to consumer will be e-commerce with digital marketing strategies, so social, SEO, third-party sites, Shopify, etc. And then we have a B2B channel, which is our distribution method into bike shops, right? Our cost structure, hopefully Josiah doesn't see this. Josiah, this is not what it looked like in February. It was not this detailed, but we're getting very, very much closer to market. So I know what my cost of goods sold are. What I want to tell you is in February, I thought I could produce this box for $75. I was like, I'll produce a box for $75. I'm gonna sell it for $200. Not the case. Not the case at all. So you just learn as you go. So that's our Lean Canvas. Why am I showing you this? Because right now you're kind of looking at yours like, okay, I got all this information down. The next step in moving your startup or your new product and service as an existing business, like the next immediate step is to have an MVP, a working prototype. So what's the bare bone design of this solution? You need to build that. And then you need to start going to talk. We call it talking with humans, right? Getting outside of the vacuum of your office and go talk to people and start testing out each one of these boxes. So I ask people, I say, hey, first I go, how many bikes do you have? And they're like, I have 3 bikes. Awesome. You're kind of in our core target group. I'm glad I'm talking to the right person, because if you had 0 bikes, we need to stop talking, right? But then my second question is, how do you store those now? So I'm trying to ask the problem. Is there a problem with how you store it? Okay, you store it X. How do you keep up with all your stuff? You have 3 bikes. You probably have 2 or 3 helmets. You have some additional gear. How you storing that? Do you have a solution? And they go, man, no, that part's hard. Like, I have a way, my bikes get stored here, but it's really difficult to keep up with all the gear. Boom, check on my lean canvas. That problem exists in the marketplace. So I got the problem fit, which is what we're looking for. As we get a little bit further in the discussion, I show them the solution. I show them my prototype. I show them my MVP, and I say, hey, this is what we think will help solve that problem. Do you think it solves that problem? And they go, nope, Eddie, that's ugly. It doesn't work. And I go, crap, tell me more. Like, why doesn't this work? I need to know why it doesn't work. Or if they go, yeah, Eddie, this actually would help me keep up with all my gear better, then I check box. Boom. Solution fit. Problem, solution, fit is what you're trying to do as you get started. Does the problem exist in the marketplace? Does the solution that I showed them solve that problem? As you confirm those 2 things up, the rest of this lean canvas starts getting fuller and fuller with better details and more sophisticated information. So I just wanted to show you that that's the next step. Start testing your lean canvas out with potential people in the marketplace using an MVP. If you don't know how, like, Eddie, I got this idea, it's mapped out. Where do I get a prototype? How do I come up with that? If you're making something, building something, I highly recommend the Innovation Hub. They have been awesome for me. I drew my thing out on a piece of paper that looked terrible, and now I have full-fledged design. If you're getting into software, the Venture Center knows tons of people in that space. You might want to start having early conversations on what it will take to get some of this software built, or maybe you have some friends who do software. So again, you just want to get the bare bones of something built and start testing it out. So that's kind of us. You know, I said I wanted to finish at 12:30. We're at 12:45. Any kind of last questions, comments, things we still need to walk through?
Hunter said after the patent comment, he just said he was just wanting to feel protected in discussions. And then when you showed your lean canvas, he said your company is the lean canvas of bike gear. Nice.
Yep. And I get it, Hunter. I'm with you. You know, I'm having tons of discussions on just how do we feel like we're not going to launch this, and Joe in California is going to launch the same thing. So I'm glad you're able to explore. We're kind of exploring some of those same things. Some of it is just having like a low level defensive mechanism just to kind of, as you get started, like people are like, oh man, like they have a pending design patent, which you wouldn't have a pending design patent. You'd have a design patent, but there's just one thing to keep them away for a little bit longer as you get market share. So I get it, man.
And that looks like all the comments and questions so far, unless anybody has one last question or comment.
All right. Well, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for everybody who tuned in. As I said, you know, this has become kind of part of my life. Like right now, like I'm building this and I'm looking at the lean canvas, and I firmly believe if you can understand the method of how a startup can get started and do it in a lean way, it changes how you go about product development. You no longer build something in a room and invest a bunch of money in it and then go, yeah, everybody's going to buy this, let's move forward. It dramatically changes your product development cycle. And it's greatly impacted me in my entrepreneurship journey. And then I just want to thank, the Venture Center. We came up with this idea, several months back, probably even back in later 2019, and you guys ran with it. We felt like people could learn from this. And so thank you for endorsing it and putting it on. I would just really appreciate the Venture Center for doing that.
Well, thank you, Eddie, because you did absolutely great.
Yes, thank you so.
Awesome, thanks.
Thank you. And Hunter asked just to get in contact with the Venture Center about software development. Who should he reach out to? I put in our founders email, so please, it's founders@venturecenter.co. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We can direct you in the right direction. I also put in, if you guys have an idea, are stuck, where to go, what to do, please sign up for an origin session as well. We can help you to connect with the right mentor, whoever that is, connect you to the right people to help make your idea become a reality. And I just want to thank you again, Eddie. Thank you so much for providing all the necessary information in today's Lean Canvas workshop. Thank you for everybody participating on Facebook Live and Zoom. And I just want to thank our sponsors again, Wright Lindsay Jennings, Frost, and the Little Rock Chamber. We encourage you guys, please attend our upcoming events at the Venture Center. We have a Lunch and Learn with Jim Womble on July 28th. We also have an office space workshop that's going to be super interesting on July 30th. And then please follow us on all of our social media channels, check out our website, and please subscribe to our newsletter. So thank you guys so much and have a great rest of your Tuesday.
Bye, everybody.